Germany has been one of the most successful economies in recent history. It's the fourth biggest in the world and accounts for roughly a quarter of the European Union's GDP. But behind this seemingly stable nation, cracks are starting to appear. Years of strong growth have masked underlying issues. Germany's economy has been built on trade. Export-led growth has been the main driver of their economic success since the reunification of East and West in 1990. But this has started to fall rapidly, as the pandemic and general slowdown in global trade have severely slowed the German economy, a trend which looks unlikely to stop. This has had a significant effect on the nation. Germany's Business Climate Index, which provides insight into how conducive the nation is for growth, has been dropping since the pandemic recovery, especially in areas like manufacturing and trade, both crucial for the economy. In addition to this, Germany has also been extremely vulnerable to external factors, facing a large economic fallout from the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Before this started, Germany imported 55% of its natural gas from Russia, its second largest source of energy. But Germany woke up too late to the major risks of energy dependence on Russia, being far more dependent on the nation than the rest of the EU, and was left to face the consequences. Gas prices spiked after the military action in early 2022, which has sent a ripple effect across the economy. 40% of Germany's gas use is residential, as it's used to heat homes, and this has been a large influence on Germany's rampant inflation, which was well above the EU average. Whilst households suffered this burden, they have since substituted their energy of natural gas for other energy sources. Unlike many industries, notably the chemical industry, which uses gas heavily as a raw material, something which is not as easily replaceable. Chemicals are Germany's third largest industry, accounting for 11% of its manufacturing sector and providing over 300,000 jobs. The energy crisis has significantly increased the cost of production of these companies, and some key firms have already begun to explore alternatives away from Germany, like the US or other EU nations, in search of lower costs of production, posing a key risk for Germany's third largest industry. A turbulent past few years has also taken its toll on the population, and research conducted towards the end of 2023 revealed that 7 out of 10 Germans are worried about the future. Domestically, the nation is also facing acute labour shortages, as its population is ageing and they lack skilled workers in many key areas crucial to their economy. These are problems which have been developing for some time, but remained hidden from view and masked because of Germany's strong economic performance and trade surplus. However, a recent economic slowdown has caused these to rise to the surface. Germany's economic success since its reunification has been centred around a strong manufacturing and industrial sector. The nation occupies a leading stance in industries like chemical manufacturing and automobile production. German products are often associated with quality and have historically performed very well on the international market, making Germany the third largest exporter globally and allowing it to accumulate a large trade surplus, as it exported far more goods than it imported. This peaked in 2016, as Germany had the largest trade surplus globally of 310 billion, accounting for 7.4% of its GDP. However, an over-reliance on global trade has left Germany especially vulnerable to global shocks and trends. Since this peak, this surplus has fallen as trade with its main partners has slowed, and the pandemic and rising energy costs have disrupted many of its key industries. So this poses the question, is Germany's future doomed, or can it continue to prosper? Germany has a well-documented modern history. In the aftermath of World War II, the country was divided between the Allied powers of the West and between the Soviet Union. The same was also true of Berlin. For 45 years, the two sides of the country functioned under very different systems. Western Germany promoting capitalism, whilst the East was run on communist policies. This was until 1990, and an event which changed the world forever, the collapse of the Berlin Wall, which sparked the fall of the Soviet Union. Thus began the reunification of Germany, which posed a number of significant challenges, integrating two very different economic systems. The East's economy was far less developed and less efficient, leading to massive investments and subsidies to integrate it into Western Germany. Here, Germany focused on industrial and technological development in sectors like automobiles, machinery, and chemicals, emphasizing high-quality, technologically advanced products. Integration into the EU also greatly benefited the German economy, as the single market and expansion facilitated easier and broader trade routes for German exports. This, combined with high spending on research and development, allowed Germany to gain an advantage and grow its economy through exporting goods and services worldwide. A gift, but also a weakness. As a major goods exporter, the German economy is heavily reliant on the performance of other nations for their economic growth. Germany's main export markets consist of the US, France, the Netherlands, and China, meaning that slowdowns in their economy since the pandemic has also caused a loss of growth for Germany. This vulnerability is not limited to exports. Export-led growth has led many companies to become heavily dependent on global supply chains. Companies have used cheaper manufacturing and specialized production of parts from China to remain price competitive in the global market, whilst also utilizing China to address their own labor shortages. This dependency has been growing for the last 20 years, and in 2023, trade with China now accounts for almost 20% of total German trade, making it their largest trading partner. Germany's reliance on China is not so much about the quantity of goods it imports, as other European nations also import from China, but rather about the specific type of products. The main concern is rare earths. Germany currently gets 95% of these rare earths from China, and are a crucial element of production for large companies like Siemens and Schaeffler. This partnership with China is especially crucial for some of Germany's leading companies, such as Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and chemical giant BASF, which have all found a pivotal market in China. On their own, they have generated 1/3 of the investments from the European continent to China over the past 4 years. And as major players in the German economy, these companies face heightened vulnerability to any shifts in the Germany-China relationship. This is particularly true for the automotive sector, a cornerstone of the German economy, contributing around 5% to its GDP and responsible for employing 7% of the workforce. Much of Germany's growth has been fueled by the demand for German products like automobiles on the Asian market. Volkswagen now makes 40% of its sales in the Chinese region, and these companies don't want to slow down as an ever-growing middle class in China will increasingly demand cars. However, the traditional business model of exporting high-quality vehicles across continents is now facing challenges. Asian and in particular Chinese car manufacturers are rapidly expanding their production capabilities. Last year, nearly 60% of all vehicles were produced in Asia, a significant increase from around about 31% in 2000. Furthermore, Chinese firms are at the forefront of the electric vehicle revolution. And in 2023, Volkswagen was overtaken as the leading automotive manufacturer by BYD. With the global automotive market shifting towards electric vehicles, German companies have been slow to react, as the companies like BYD have taken their market share by dominating production, and now starting to make progress in the export market, posing a substantial risk to these German car manufacturers as people switch towards Chinese-owned alternatives. These risks are starting to materialize as countries are becoming more polarized. The growing trend of trade wars, such as those initiated by former US President Donald Trump, and growing production capabilities in countries like China pose significant risks to the German export model, and many companies are now seeking new strategies to move away from China and bring production closer to home. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz's coalition unveiled a strategy towards de-risking Germany's economic relationship with China, potentially shifting towards partnerships with the US and other Asian economies like Vietnam, who offer the cheap production capabilities of China. But decreasing this reliance on supply chains will hurt German companies in the short term, as their products will become more expensive and less competitive in global markets. Despite facing risks from their trading partners overseas, Germany's growth model is also under threat domestically, as they face acute labour shortages across many key industries. Germany has a tight labour market. This is a situation where the demand for labour is high, but the supply of available workers is low. This is evident by its gradually falling unemployment rate and its gradually increasing vacancy rate. Leaving them in their current position, the pool of available workers has been shrinking and the demand for these same workers has been growing, with no one to plug the gap. As we saw, many of Germany's key export industries, like automotive manufacturing and pharmaceuticals, require skilled labour to fill these roles. Current mismatches are acting as a bottleneck and weakening Germany's growth, undermining their export-led growth model, as they cannot match the current demands of the economy. This has been caused by both demographic changes and variance in global economic demand. This is the demographic of Germany. As we can see, much of the population is concentrated in the age range between 50 and 70, with a much smaller portion in lower age ranges, crucial for the sustenance of economic growth. Currently, the rate of German retirees massively outstrips the new talent coming into the workforce, further worsening their labour shortages. In addition to this, despite threats from abroad, the German economy has continued its place as a leading global exporter over the last decade, with many of its products and services in high demand on the international market. As such, many companies continue to increase their hiring to fill this demand, reducing the available talent in the workforce, especially amongst those with a university degree, who had a 2% unemployment rate in 2018, well below the national average. To mediate these shortages and Germany's ageing population, the government has implemented several immigration strategies in order to increase its workforce in these younger demographics. This has meant easing immigration policies to attract foreign talent, such as utilising the Blue Card EU system for highly qualified non-EU nationals, and placing incentives to encourage international students and researchers, especially in STEM fields, to remain in Germany post-study. Germany's model of economic growth has been centred around globalisation. An increase in trade openness over the last 30 years has allowed it to not only expand its export market, but also to increase domestic production by outsourcing elements of the process. The reliance on cheap natural resources from Russia has also been a huge advantage. But the changing nature of globalisation, marked by shifting trade patterns and rising economic nationalism, poses additional challenges to Germany's export-oriented model, as well as a failure by German leaders to recognise and prepare for a potential threat from Russia. Germany now needs to reassess and adapt its economic strategies to mitigate the risks posed by an increasingly complex and unpredictable global geopolitical landscape.